How's it going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the James Loud Podcast. And today our special guest is Terryn Buxton from Oakland Extracts. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. Very excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too, man. I met you a few weeks ago. It seems like a few weeks, but it was a little over a month ago over at the Harborside reunion party. Great event. A lot of great people coming together for a great cause. And
it's like a high school reunion. It was great.
Yeah, it's wild, and seeing some people that I had no idea that were even going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm as an outsider, I was a vendor, knowing Steve and Andrew pretty well, doing some filming with them, especially over the last couple of years. They're great guys. And then everybody that works at Harborside, it was a very family-oriented company.
Yeah, it was a beautiful space to be in. I was lucky to be there early when they opened. I worked there from 2009 to 2012.
Nice.
And so I got to know a lot of the original staff that first opened the store, and just when the staff was a little bit smaller as it was starting to grow.
Those were the best years, too.
Yeah.
In my opinion, those were the best years of Harborside. Going there as a consumer, going there as a vendor, someone who went there to buy clones. They had the best clones. Like, literally, they set the standard for clones. The same standard that we have today was set at Harborside back then, and the world had never seen anything quite like it.
Yes,
there was clone vending going on before Harborside. There's clone vending going on now, but when they brought it out, we had Dan Grace, who really rocked him out from Dark Heart Nursery, man, just really killing it on a whole nother level, and scaling. And as they scaled, they maintain quality and very even clones. I haven't seen very many companies that have competed with those kind of clones even today.
Yeah, I'm not as in touch with the clone market as I used to be, but I had never seen a clone company grow to that scale, that size, that well branded, and still people came back loving the cuts, even years into them being popular. A lot of brands will kind of get big and the quality kind of starts to waver as they scale up, and they always maintain that quality, so that was awesome.
Well, I feel like at the end they had problems. They had hoplite and viroid was a big problem, and so that really, I think, affected them more than anybody that I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And as you scale, it gets difficult. And the scale that they went to was pretty phenomenal from being a small mom and pop company.
Absolutely.
And then just growing and then providing good genetics. And I feel like they had good integrity with the genetics, the names of the genetics, everything was tested. They weren't just throwing stuff out there.
No, we really liked working with them when I was there. There's a lot of small clone companies that are kind of popping up out of nowhere, and then you really couldn't trust where the genetics were. They said it was one thing, but it was often something else.
Oh yeah,
and Dark Heart, you really
cut
felt
fishing.
Like you could really trust what they were doing, and just that era. I mean, I remember before there really was a clone department at Harborside, and then once it got rocking, I mean, there'd be a line when it was the season. There's a line outside the door 2 hours before we opened that was down the block, and that line existed until we were closed, and there's still a line out the door well after we were closed. People coming and getting those clones, and they were selling them by the truck full. Yeah,
just it was funny because you would go online, and I believe it was Twitter back in the day. When Twitter first became a thing, you would go and get the menu, and hopefully you could get what you wanted to get there. And it was like published the day before, the day of or the day before, and you go there and get in line, and hopefully it was there. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
Yeah.
But there was always a diverse menu too of all kinds of good stuff, and it really impressive, looking back, looking in hindsight, the stuff that these dispensaries went to get to the places they're at now.
Yeah. Well, it was beautiful working there because before there, most of the dispensaries, they're a lot smaller.
Yeah.
A lot darker. Security was kind of big scowling guys up front, and just the entire experience, it kind of felt like going to a used record store. If you didn't really know the cool thing, you kind of got a certain kind of vibe from people. Whereas Harborside, all the security, they refer to the security as safety. It was wide open. It was beautiful. It was well lit. And it was very welcoming and inviting for people who weren't necessarily from the cannabis community. And they really made a point as someone who worked there that you had to be smiling all day. Yeah. If one of the managers walked through and then saw you not smiling, they jumped on you because they didn't want you just sitting there looking stoned. They wanted you to look aware and engaged. So when someone came up to you talking to you about cancer or talking about some kind of issue they had, you weren't just some stone kid in the back. They really wanted to make it clear that this was about medical and about servicing the community. Yeah,
it was cool. And they had a lot of money to, Harborside was very successful. So they had massages and they had programs and they had classes and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, they spent a lot of money on that. Even when they weren't making money, that was always a priority of them to make sure that there's free health services available to the community. Right. And that was something that no matter what there was going on with them financially, they always maintained through all the lawsuits with the feds, through the tax bills that came in. They always made sure, and all those people were paid by Harborside. These people weren't just giving it away for free. Right. So it was really a beautiful thing that they committed to.
Yeah, they had a big target on their backs, being the biggest
Yeah.
and being the first to do what they did, and then to scale. People wanted to make an example of them.
Yeah.
They were always in court. It was always someone trying to come after them. It was wild.
Yeah, our monthly staff meetings were just court updates usually. What's going on with this case? This feds might come in and different trainings for the cops coming in, the feds coming in, how that might look different. And it was a lot.
Yeah. So how did you get your start in cannabis?
As a consumer.
Yeah.
You know, I love the plant, grew up loving the plant all through high school and in college. I was always a big fan of the plant. It's a big part of my life. And I kind of inadvertently started growing. A friend of mine had a little grow at his house, and I would just kind of help him out. He had helped me out on a project previously, so I kind of owed him a little bit of labor. And then so I started helping him build out his grow, help take care of his plants, and didn't realize I had a green thumb before then, and like really got into taking care of the plants. And all this time I was working in different nonprofit organizations, so I had a kind of a square day job, and then doing this in the evening, I really got into it. And I got so into it, I wound up having my own grow at my house, and then I stopped working in nonprofits, and I was just growing. And I lived right near Harborside.
Nice.
And I would go by there like every other day right before closing, just to kind of come in and get a gram, but really just to hang out and shoot the shit. Because when you're growing, it's a very insular activity.
Yeah.
Like I'm by myself in a basement all hours of the night. And so it was just kind of nice to go there to hang out. And they just started joking, like, you come here so often, you should just work here. Nice. And honestly, I got more good advice about growing from the people that work there than even the original people that kind of put me on to growing.
Yeah.
And so it was just a great knowledge resource. And I had the time. And so I just started working there kind of for fun.
When so many good growers going in there, it was, and vendors too, like the quality of the flower. There was really amazing flower, diverse. You know, there was something for everybody too. It wasn't like there was only top shelf. There was top shelf, and there was the bottom, and there was stuff that was affordable, that was good.
Yeah.
You know, and good, healthy, clean medicine. I think that was always the agenda, was to have good, healthy, clean medicine.
Yeah, that was the focus. Rick, the original buyer there, was like really strong on that. Before we had any kind of lab testing, they were very clear about what kind of growing practices they wanted to see the growers have. And as a vendor, before I started working there, people would be in that vending room. They're getting their hearts broken because everyone thinks they just have the most beautiful plants, and they go back there.
It's all ego.
Oh, and they would get long explanations of what they can do better next time. And you see people coming out just crestfallen, but it just increased the amount of effort and energy put in towards their plants and making it better.
Right.
And it just improved the quality for everybody.
So, what was your favorite flower from back in the day? I know mine.
I mean, there's so many. We had a cut of Super Silver Haze that Steve insisted was not Super Silver Haze because it smelled nothing like haze. He was like, stop calling it Super Silver Haze. He got really mad. He came in one day, he smelled it, and he went off. And he's like, just call it Super Silver. It's too cheesy. And we're like, the staff, we're young. We don't know what you're talking about. This is just the best sativa ever. So I used to love that.
It was that 97 cut.
Yeah.
I believe it was that 97 cut that was extra funky. It wasn't as terpenoline dominant or terpenoline dominant.
Yeah. I used to love that one. I love the old school Cincy Star.
Yeah, Cincy Star. It was so good back then.
Yeah, I miss real indicas that tasted amazing. I don't care what they tested at, but like
Romulan.
Yeah, Romulan. And pure Afghani.
Pure Afghani,
everything before the perps took over, it felt like there's a lot of more variety around the indicas, and it was really interesting. You could really feel them. Then when purple started to dominate, that everyone kind of went in that direction.
There was that purple Kush that was out for a while.
I like the old one when it was ugly little nugs that were just dense, and they actually did something to you, as opposed to whatever came out later that I think was just another version of grape ape that just looked good but didn't really do much. Purples used to actually have an impact, and then they started trying to focus on the being
there was
pretty.
some strong ones for sure.
Yeah, but
then there was like the blackberry Kush, right? And that was like the weakest of the weak. It was like CBD. We didn't even test it back in the day, but I'm pretty sure it would be super high in CBD and super low in THC.
Yeah. So I miss the variety. I miss that variety.
Oh yeah, and all the different long flowering varieties. You know, it's like there was some really special stuff. Power Plant I didn't like back in the day, but I like now.
I was always a big fan of Red Congo, still am, but I like Red Congo more than I do now. And then
I like Red Congo more than the Durban and more than the Malawi, although I like all three of those a lot. Yeah. The Red Congo makes me like laugh and smile, and the Durban just takes me out. Same thing with the Malawi is one of those ones in small doses. It's great, but like you can overdo it with that one.
For sure. You really just gotta be climbing the walls.
Oh yeah. Good stuff. Yeah. My favorite My favorite thing at Harborside back in the day was the Sage and Sour. I believe it was from Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
That was special.
My friends were growing that for a long time, so I got really close with that plant. That was one of the original plants that we started extracting when we started Oakland Extracts. That was phenomenal. Sage and Sour. That whole crew, they're all indoor organic soil grown.
Yeah, that was the best.
Quality.
That in my opinion, that was the best thing that came out of Harborside. The Chem 91 was really good too. There was a bunch of amazing things that came out of that era. But that Sage and Sour was something special because it was like, if you like sour, it was great. If you liked haze, it was great.
Yeah.
It would just check so many boxes. It was gassy. Yeah. It was really nose burning pungent, and the structure was amazing. It had a lot of structure to it.
I miss the same crew that worked with the Sage. They didn't create the Sage, but they had the Sage for a long time at Harborside. They did Kyle Cushman Strawberry Cough, and there was a couple runs of that. That was the best smoke I've ever had in my life, where it was like just psychedelic experience. It was so amazing. But it was interesting about growing is like they had the cut didn't change, but it was really just it was great for like a year and a half, and then it kind of whatever happened, it kind of deteriorated, or their ability to get the most out of it changed. Yeah, and it was just never the same.
Yeah, I like Strawberry Cough. I feel like Blue Dream is great. It's like, like Blue Dream is very functional, but then Strawberry Cough is a stronger Blue Dream. Yeah. It's like Blue Dream turned up.
Yeah, I was a big fan.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean. Yeah, I love talking about genetics from the back. Yeah, and there's stuff that I haven't heard of in a long time, and somebody brings it up, and I'm like, wow, I remember that. That was amazing.
I just miss basic stuff like UK cheese. Yeah. Like, I don't understand why that's still not around. That was loud. You could cross it into
You just have
anything.
to know the right people. Nicotee has some.
Okay. Yeah,
so Nicotee's got some. But it's not common to see cheese, right? Like cheese or even like strong cheese derivatives. There are some of these chemi things that are like, so I smell them in extracts too. Like when you're smelling rosin, you're like, ooh, that smells cheesy. And people are like, I don't know. That smells like the cheese, the strain. Real UK or Exodus cheese, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I just miss the variety. Like I mean, gelato's cool. Yeah, all that stuff, all what's happening now is cool, but I just miss a variety that we used to have, and there was just so many different types of strains coming from so many different mom and pop grows. Yeah, and some of the best I've ever smoked in my life were coming from people that had like 2, 4, 6, 8 lights. I mean, literally,
that was the best. Yeah, all the craft grown stuff that it would come out different every time, or somebody had mastered its variety. Right, they had taken one cultivar and that's all they grew for years, and they had really dialed it in. I know some old hippies that still do that. Where it's like that's in my opinion is the best, like where you've mastered that. Because the thing is like everything requires different inputs to a degree or different variables, whether it's harvesting on a certain date and playing around with that, or whether you need to push it harder in the beginning or at the end. I think there's so much to cultivation and learning the cultivar. Yeah. And then there's something special. Bubba Kush was good back in the day.
Yeah, Bubba was amazing.
The Master Kush, the Bubba Kush, the Hindu Kush.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that because my friends grew way too much of it. But like when I first got my hands on it, it was amazing. Yeah. And like they crossed it into so many different things that really, really great plant. I really, like I said, I miss the variety that we used to have. I like the access that people have now. I like that. I like going I do demos at stores, seeing all these people come in just buying gummies who like 5 years ago wouldn't have even gone near a cannabis shop. So I love like how open it is. But I do miss the old guard. I do miss the old farmers. I do miss the old quality. Right. And then I miss people just appreciating flower. Like extracts are cool. I like to dab, but I'd rather have a joint any day of the week. I love flower. I miss an appreciation of sun grown. It's like
I agree.
It's like people have so much mass produced like stuff. They don't understand that the best stuff on earth comes off of some mountain somewhere that someone picked. And
they've probably never experienced it. That's the thing is like there's so much. People think, oh well, I know weed. I smoke weed all the time. I go to the dispensary. I go to this guy, and he's I go to my plug, and he's got the weed. Like I've tried. They think they've tried a lot of it, but they don't think sun grown is great or better or superior. And it's a different product, right? Like especially the effect, like. We've gone away from talking about effect, which I feel like we need to go back in that direction to like, okay, so how does it make you feel?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's a handful of us that are really kind of trying to push that agenda, and I think it's going to catch on because at the end of the day, that's why we're all attracted to this plant. It's not because the way it looks, the way it tastes is maybe cool, but it's really the effect.
It's the feeling. Like I miss being able to smoke something and go to sleep. Like I miss when indicas actually put you to sleep, because that's really how
the GDP that gives you the munchies.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I really got into cannabis. Is I had trouble sleeping when I was a kid. Like all throughout my childhood, I couldn't sleep at all. And the first time, not the first time, but when I really started being able to get regular sleep was when in high school I discovered cannabis. Yeah. And so the first few years I had cannabis, a lot of times I wouldn't smoke throughout the day, but I always made sure I had a bedtime bowl because I knew I would actually be able to go to sleep that night. And then to actually work in medical cannabis and realize there's all these different types of cannabis for all these different things. Yeah. And you experiment with all that and you kind of fall in love with that. And then you see now rec has taken over and we've walked away from it being experiential based or being about health and medicine and things like that. Now it's just like pretty colors, high THC scores. We've really lost a lot.
I mean, Instagram weed will only get you so far.
Yeah.
You know, but I think Instagram and social media they've changed the way we look at cannabis in general, you know, but I think there's no time like the present to change, you know, and I think like podcasts, you have your own podcast too.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
You know, I think podcasts are a great way to influence people to change, telling your story, telling the world about the effects of cannabis and how, you know, it's not just about getting high. Yeah. And I think people can relate to that too, because, you know, it's like people have taken that edible dose that's like 500 milligrams. And it's like some people never want to take edibles again because they've taken too big of a dose.
Yeah, we used to scare a lot of people off. Now, that's actually the one improvement about what's going on in the market is back in the day, so many of the edibles were really, really strong that when someone came in, we would just absentmindedly give them a 100 milligram cookie, not realizing that 5 milligrams would have been perfect for them. And now it's the opposite. Like it's hard to find something that has a lot of milligrams in it. And that's safer for so many people. And so many more people do have like a gentle experience with edibles, which is really nice to see.
I think it's good. I think because that's a great way to turn someone off from the very beginning, from their first experience. They're like, oh, I'm going to go get a 100 milligram edible. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, well, I never want to do that again because I don't want to feel like that. But the thing is like if you'd eaten 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams or maybe even 20, you would have had a much different experience.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's so important that people have a proper introduction to cannabis. Because again, having edible that's too strong is going to really turn you off and kind of turn you away from everything. In the same way, a really good topical can be great to get people involved in it. I love giving topicals to older folks, realizing that they can deal with pain relief without you going to the medicine cabinet and having something more safer, more holistic. And that opens into cannabis in general. You can start with the topical, move over to a small gummy and kind of just get them deeply.
They got bath bombs. They got all kinds of stuff. It's so wild. And we live in this world of convenience. It's like before we had to really work to do it, you know, like roll a joint. Now there's pre-rolls or hand rolls. Yeah. You know, before dabbing, it was like there was a lot of different ways we smoked, like atom smashers and smoking on coal, and you know, it's so hot knives.
I still miss the hot knife. The hot knife was great. There was like these weird little eras where, like, 'cause I remember hot knives in high school. I went to high school in the 90s, and I remember I had a friend that lived in Spain, and so he would go out, he'd visit his dad every year, and they would come back with hash, and they would put a little bit of hash in the hot knife, and completely blew my mind.
Oh yeah.
And then seeing them, they started making like glass hot knives, like little glass like spoons. Right. And they had like a little divot in it with the knob on the other end, so you could really get it in there. And I remember a friend of mine, he had like a glass little thing that you inhale through that had a big hole in the middle that you could put ice in it, and you put a cork in it, so it cooled the middle of this little flume that you kind of hit. This like, what the fuck? And that's
people
all
get
gone.
So creative. Yeah. And I think you can attribute some of that to the plant, right? Yeah. Like the creative side of it.
Absolutely.
You're like, okay, well, how can I make this experience better? You know, so I got some guys that are some of my friends. Marlon Asher introduced me to Catch a Fire. And those guys are from New Zealand. And in New Zealand, they have their own version of hot knives. It's a torch that has the knives on the end of it. It heats the knife up, and you push the button, you put the bud in there, and you squeeze it, and you hit it out of a tube.
Oh, that's awesome. I got to try that.
Oh yeah, it's wild. And like, I would never have normally done it, but I was backstage at a show, and Marlon's like, oh yeah, we got to smoke with these guys. And they were like, dude, you have to hit this. And I normally would have been like, I don't know. But I was like, okay, I'll do it. Yeah, it got totally ripped.
Yeah, you got to try it where however people present it, where they're from. Like, this is what we do at home. You want to try that. You want to get a taste of it.
Yeah, it's a different experience, you know. Absolutely. And there's so many different ways you can smoke. I mean, you got your Puffco. I got my Focus V.
Yeah.
Ways of convenience, and it's just so easy, right? So, and then we have all these flavors too. I mean, I got a variety of stuff. I got some long flowering varieties. I got some really short flowering varieties. I got the Skittles. Yeah. Candy. It's really gone candy.
Yeah.
You know, more than anything, especially with extracts, is candy. Flower too. But you know, but we're missing out on some of these amazing long flowering varieties.
When it comes to flower, I prefer a sativa. I prefer things that grow like that. But when it does come in flower, I'm not a big candy fan. But when it comes to dabbing, I like the candy stuff all day. And I don't like it when they press anything else. It's really interesting.
I mean, I'll sit there watching TV and I'll just smell too. Yeah. I'll dab, but I'll also just smell the extract because I just love the way it smells. I do that with bud, but more so with little jars because it's just, I have these little jars.
It's concentrated. Oh, wow.
There's some long flowering.
Yeah. Very Jackie.
Yeah. Super silver.
Yeah.
Super silver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Super silver and
I missed that.
Flora Flame.
Yeah.
Flora Flame. Those guys are great. Another Oakland company.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all practically neighbors.
That's great. I was under the impression that sativas don't press very well, and that's why we don't see a lot of sativas in the rosin market. But to know that silver does, like I could just have that as my sativa and just be happy right there.
It'll do it for you. And the thing is it's one of those ones where you don't need a big dab of it, right? Like it's super strong.
Absolutely.
I feel like palpitations,
Yeah.
whatever. Like if you do too much, like for me, I enjoy it. It's a good daytime thing. It's like, or morning, I go to the gym, and it's like now rosin carts. It's like, these are great for rosin carts.
Yeah.
And
I get in trouble. I work out a lot and I definitely smoke before I go in the gym, but I can't use the cart because I'll like keep hitting it the whole time I'm like in the car. Or at least if it's a joint, it's the beginning, middle, and end. So I don't overconsume because if I hit a cart for 45 minutes, then go in, the cardio is not so good.
Yeah, for sure. So I just do the 2 hits, right? Like I'll do 1 or 2 hits. The 2 hits is the most. In moderation, it helps me focus. It helps me get through cardio if I have to go do cardio, if it's a cardio day. I do enjoy smoking a pen, and it's like depending on the day and the mood. Some things I cannot smoke and go to the gym, and I'll be like, nah, I got to get out of here. But other things, it's like Skittles too. Skittles is one of those ones that the extract of Skittles is super mild compared to other ones, but it leaves that taste in your mouth too. So when you're working out, you're like, yeah, I'm smoking Skittles.
Yeah, I've really this year I've been stuck on the Whitethorn Rose.
Yeah,
Just
me too. It's taken over. We talk about it on almost every episode of the podcast.
I'm disgusted with myself how much I like it, and because I'll still like I go out and I buy a lot. I buy from a lot of different brands, just kind of see what's current, see what other people are doing, and the amount of times I'm just go back to the Whitethorn. This is my favorite thing of all these things that I bought. I'm almost embarrassed.
Well, you shouldn't be. Because I'm that same way, and I feel like it's good old feel-good weed, and we need to get back to more of that stuff. That the effect is so important. Like with Whitethorn Rose, it just makes you feel good. Like you smoke it, you can do anything. You conquer the world. Blue Dream does that to a degree, but it's different. And my buddy Dave Mesford passed away on 420. His Blue 13 has the exact same effect as Whitethorn, where you can smoke it in the morning, you feel great. You smoke it in the afternoon, you feel great. You smoke it in the evening, you feel great. It doesn't matter when you smoke it, what you're doing, you just feel really good. And I feel like those people that haven't experienced that with cannabis that are like, I don't know, I don't think cannabis is for me, they should probably try Whitethorn Rose. And it's just, it's one of those profound effects where it's like, it just makes you feel whole or complete, and like that's what I love about it.
I love giving people their first dab or even their second dab, because I do a dab bars because I'd rather do a dab bar than a demo. I don't want to just sit in the corner of a club. I'd rather go to, there's a lounge where people can try things, they can sample things.
That's where we met. Was at your dab bar.
Exactly. And just being able to offer something that tastes delicious. And then also I'm very keen on low temp, small dabs in the beginning, so you can kind of just get the flavor of it and not overwhelm them. And so many people, their first dab was red hot and just burning, screaming kind of experience that I like.
900 degrees.
Just give them something gentle, something that tastes amazing, and just kind of seeing their eyes light up. And they're like, I had no idea it could be this good. I had no idea this experience could be like that.
What's the perfect temp for you for low temp?
It's going to depend on the consistency of the concentrate. 100%. I always go for as low as possible, but certain things like, I mean, I don't like to dab diamonds, but if you're dabbing diamonds, they want more heat than like a nice rosin. Usually, I mean, I guess I could open up the app on my Puffco. I could tell you exactly. I think for my normal Puffco, my low temp on the Puffco is around 450, sometimes 475. Roger from Puffco, he says he does 530. So I started doing, and he has access to everything. So I started,
got all the data points.
So I started cranking mine up just to like, well, I guess it's okay. And it's just a little hotter than I like, but definitely you feel it so much more when it is a little bit hotter. But I like the high 4s, low 5s. Because I want to taste it. Because my thing is like, I'm going to keep hitting it. Like, I don't need to just get wasted. I don't need to get loaded immediately. I'd rather just dab. I'm going to dab for a long period of time anyway. So I'd rather just kind of savor the flavor of it.
Mine's a 420. I like that that low. It's easy to remember too. It's like, okay, what's your temp? It's 420. Right? So, and that's low temp. I think some people go even lower than that, but I feel like that 420 is about
Yeah.
where you get a lot of flavor.
Yeah, it also
And
depends on the device too, because each one
is
calls it a
slightly-
little bit differently. Definitely on my Focus V, I have it dialed lower.
Yeah.
Because it's hotter for real. I don't know which one's more accurate than the other, but I know on my Focus, I should have brought it because I have it on the counter sitting right next to my Puffco. It's sniffing. It might be 375 or like low fours.
You got to try this. This is the Rover. You can change the temp of that as well.
Excellent.
And and it's convenient. You can watch the smoke. I love the convenience of it, and I love the price point. They're $80.
Oh, that's perfect.
And I'm not getting paid to advertise this at all.
No.
I love these guys. They do a great job.
I just love all the devices out there. I just love the fucking toys. Like I always have.
Well, yeah, and I love the guys that are pushing the envelope on stuff and trying out new stuff, and they might not hit it out of the park every time, but like Dip Device, they had the original little dipper is like the straw, like the e-straw, right, where you can just dip it in, and I was like, oh, whatever, I like my nectar collector. I'm a big nectar collector guy. I've always liked the nectar collectors.
I've got a drawer full of them.
Yeah, and they're fun. They're easy to use, and then they had this e-version of it, and I'm like, it's out in the drawer for 6 months.
The Honey Badger.
Yeah.
Every time I got one, I wound up giving it away immediately because it was just like give me the torch. But,
yeah. And so I used it after 6 months. I'm like, oh, this is great for events where I go to and I want to try everybody's stuff, but I don't have time to take there's a process. And there's time, and I want convenience. It's the most convenient. You just open the jar up. And hopefully you don't burn their extract in the jar.
That's my thing, because I never, whenever someone brings it out, I'm like, I'm not just giving you my jar because you'll just like manhandle it.
Yeah, big old mason jar. They're like putting a big old mark in it. Like no good.
Yeah, but this is what I love about our industry, that there's just so much variety. There's so many options. Just seeing all the merch you have when I walked in here just reminded me of how much of an exciting space that we're in right now.
Yeah, we're about to launch Loud Times. It's our brand, our clothing lifestyle brand that we're about to do.
Nice.
And it's Oakland, rooted in Oakland,
Yeah.
just like everything else
That's
we're
beautiful.
doing. I feel like this community is great, and it's like very supportive of other small businesses that are still around, because it's tough these days.
It's very tough, very tough.
So and then the lifestyle brand, it's like Cookies does really well with theirs. Backpack Boys is doing well with theirs. We're a little bit different than those guys, and we have our own style. And
well, it makes sense. I think the key with merchandising is like you speak to your community.
Yeah.
I mean, Cookies is Cookies. I mean, that's who Burner is.
There's 4-year-olds wearing Cookies t-shirts.
And then with Backpack Boys, like if you know them, like they are very much in tune with their community, and their community is in tune with them, and it's very organic and all that. And I feel like your brand can do that as well, because you're speaking to a certain group of folks that are out there that like want cool stuff. So
yeah, and everybody wants cool stuff to a degree. You just have to find you got to get in where you fit in.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and it's like and authenticity just goes so far with this industry. It's like you can spot it a mile away. There's a lot of people that have come in from other industries, and they weren't cannabis guys, but they're like, I'm going to make money in cannabis, and you might be successful, but most of the time you're not.
No, they're never. They never really are now. I mean, they think they're going to be, and it's funny because I've been in legal cannabis since 2006, I think, and then I was on the Oakland Cannabis Regulatory Commission for a while. Like I was doing like a lot of stuff, and then I wound up, I guess, consulting with various people that were coming into Oakland trying to start businesses.
Right.
And it was always these investment bankers, and they were just like, yeah, we're going to have a brownie. And I'm like, no, you're not. You're not. They think they can come in and reinvent the wheel. Like, oh, you guys just didn't know how to do it right. And it's like, no, you don't want to learn the lessons of all these businesses that have tried and failed around us, from people who've actually been here in this community, not like Oakland, but in the cannabis community, and understand like what's going on with these products. And they're just like, no, we know better, and we're going to come in with our money and our spreadsheets, and we're going to show you. And
we got someone from Nestle, and they know how to make edibles.
The amount of times we have this chocolatier from so and so, and I'm like, bro, Christy at Kiva is going to kill you. Like, you're not going to survive. Like, you can have all these people you want, but we have products that already exist that have been doing really well for a good reason, and you're not just going to come in and replicate that
or improve on that.
Yeah,
it's like it's in that space is so different than cultivation in the regard that the companies that are doing really well, it's not easy to just go in and like, I got a good product and it's going to sell. It's like there's so much more to it. And just because you think you have a good product doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to fit into what the world wants.
Yeah. I love just seeing some of the older brands that are hanging on. I mean, like Kiva's like one of them. I mean, we were selling Kiva when I was a budtender. I can't think of any products that are on the shelf today that were on the shelf in 2008 kind of a thing, And there's a handful of brands that have been around, like Maya is somehow still here with Ohm.
Dude, bath bombs. They crushed the bath bombs.
And
I love their
just
bath bombs.
everything. I mean, and I always felt like her whole movement was dope. She always had an amazing team. She always had great products, and they always just, I loved what they did for the community and our culture. And I love to see the few brands that are kind of still hanging around from them.
Totally. Yeah. There's a handful of brands still hanging on that are doing their thing. And Ohm makes great products. Their gummies are amazing. Yeah. Rosin gummies. Can't go wrong with rosin gummies.
Yeah, I love them. And I love edibles. Actually, when I started the Oakland Extracts, I was working at Harborside, and I met my business partner now, Aaron Tran. He worked there with me. Yeah. And he's a former chef. And we really wanted to make edibles. Like, we're eating edibles all day at work, talking about edibles all the time. So the plan, like, we're going to do some edibles. And then he learned how to make some hash with some of our friends. And the next thing we know, we have a hash company instead. And every time we have a meeting, it's like, when are we doing edibles? Like, we love edibles. And there's just a lot of other corners of the industry that are a lot of fun, but everything is so treacherous now. It's like you got to have a firm footing in what you do before you start expanding too fast. Yeah,
especially in edibles. But, rosin gummies are a great way to go, especially with the extract company. I feel like that's the most authentic way to do it is extract it yourself, put some whitethorn rose in a gummy. Yeah. Those are my favorite that I've had so far in my whole life. Yeah, the whitethorn rose gummies.
Yeah, I don't know who did it, but I've had a couple this year, and they were amazing. They were beautiful.
Yeah, I believe Rosin Tech did some, but there's a couple other companies that have done them as well.
I've always had trouble with sugar-based edibles. Yeah. I mean, I come from cannabis as medicine, and it's like, I'm not going to give someone who has cancer and tell them eat sugar every day to fight your cancer.
For a gummy, totally.
And it's like, like when I was at Harborside, when there wasn't proliferation of gummies, there were just a lot of cookies, a lot of brownies, and just everything in the sweet category. And then there were a few savories back then, and I really feel like creating edibles that are actually healthy are a good wave. And there's enough candy out there. There's enough cookies out there. I guess everyone's gone except for Pete. But I mean, there's enough of the sweet things that are out there on the market that it's time to kind of like diversify that up. So I'd like to do something kind of other than a gummy, something that isn't sugar-based.
The tinctures were good.
I love tinctures.
But it's not edible, right? But tinctures were good. Yeah. Amber Alchemy, she's we had her on the show. Rachel, she's amazing. Yeah. And I love, for medicine, I think tinctures are probably the best, but there are food options that you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm a big fan of Jade Nectar. Yeah. They're really strong sativa tinctures that are just amazing. It's eye-opening. I consume a lot of Uncle Arnie's. Yeah. I'd probably consume more Uncle Arnie's than my own product. I love beverages. I love the beverage space. That's another space I kind of wanted to get into, but I see how difficult that is, and I'm staying far away.
So difficult.
So much. It's just a lot of money to get involved in bev, but it's like, I feel like for sure, like that is the space to be in the future in cannabis. I think like when you go into a 7-Eleven, when you go into a grocery store, we devote so much more space to beverage than any other type of snack food out there, that clearly Americans know how to drink their calories. They like drinking their calories. Yep. And so I think the beverage space is just going to keep expanding.
For sure. And then you got Coca-Cola and big companies eyeing it too. They're like, okay, well, there's money there. How are we going to approach this?
Yeah. I mean, we already have the alcohol people. We got Lagunitas, Pabst, St. Ives, which I'm not a big fan of. I'm okay with Lagunitas because it's like that small time that like there's our local stoners kind of thing. They are a
big company now, but they weren't. Exactly. They're owned by Heineken now, but they were. Tony McGee, Jeremy Marshall. I used to work with them.
Okay, so they're real people, right? Yeah. Whereas when I see like Pabst or really St. Ives, I'm like, you contributed to so much negativity in our culture with malt liquor, not Pabst, more St. Ives. Sure. That now that you're gonna come into our space now, like stay over there. You're liquor. Yeah. Like we don't need you over here.
Yeah, but we don't need you.
Yeah, we don't. Like we can do our own thing. Like we have our own message we have our own story to tell. Right. And you had your time. You told a story, and you had an impact on the community. And now it's over there. And now this is something else that we're doing. But it's America. Everyone's free to do what they want. But I'm never that excited to see them in our space.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah. Coming in with that model into our space like that.
That's why I love the Uncle Arnie's. Like I love the people that's cannabis. Yeah. This is the stoners. Like I want to be in this space. What do I make? And then he made something organically because he wanted to be in cannabis. Like I like that story better.
Yeah. Yeah. Coca-Cola. I don't know if you remember the Coca-Cola back in the day. So I think before 2005, Coca-Cola was a big thing. Okay. There was a couple beverages. The companies all got taken down by the feds. Mm-hmm. Guys did years in prison. Damn. Beyond Bomb, best edible company to exist ever. One of my good friends, he did 5 years for edibles, doing it legally in California, but
we had a beverage at Harborside. I forgot. I don't know. I think it was THC Designs was the name of the guy's company. He had these little cheesecakes where they medicated the graham cracker crust in the bottom that were strong and delicious. Yeah. And then he had a mango lassi, a chai, an iced coffee, and then I think one other beverage, like eggnog around the holidays. Yeah. And each of those little milk carton bottles, I think they're about 80 milligrams a piece. And then at work, we would just pour 2 or 3 of them in the blender with one of the brownies and just...
Sounds amazing.
Oh, good times.
I bet. Yeah. And I love edibles. I love edibles in that sense. I don't eat edibles as much, especially, so edibles affect me they're so strong for me. I can smoke joints. I can smoke big 3 gram joints and sit there for an hour and puff on a joint. No problem. But then I go for like a 20 milligrams, 2 gummies, because California is 10 milligrams per gummy is the maximum dose. Although they are selling 100 milligram packages. It's supposed to be 10 doses.
Yeah.
But yeah, 20 milligrams will get me now. But back in the day, we never measured anything. So we would eat cookies and brownies and it was like, okay, how strong can we make it?
Yeah. I remember I used to make cupcakes. That's how a lot of people like back in the day know me. I used to make these cupcakes. I would use because I was working with the people that are growing strawberry cough, and they're just throwing away their trim. So they would just give me bucket loads of fresh indoor trim, and I'd make this butter and make these strawberry cough cupcakes, and they were like electric. It's just a psychedelic experience eating those. So we were mega dosing, and then when I worked at Harborside, we had Grove, we had the 1,000 milligram black bars, and then like there was like hazing when I was a bud tender about like how many edibles that you could eat on shift and like can hold your shit together, because if you look too inebriated, you're gonna get in trouble. So you can't like sit there looking wasted, although sometimes we did, and so there was a race to get to how many people could eat 100 milligrams on an empty stomach first thing in the morning and clear through your shift without making a mistake. There's like that going on, but I can't do that now. And I mean, if I eat edibles now, I'll do the Uncle Arnie's. I'll smash that 100 milligrams. But if I get too much beyond that, I'm in trouble. And when I used to be able to do 1,200 without thinking about it.
So what's the secret to making butter? Because I got my own recipe. Everyone has their own recipe.
I did a crock pot, and I always cut it with water.
Yeah.
And so I would do a couple pounds of butter, really fresh. Even then, I was freezing the trim, even though people kept telling me it didn't matter. But I was like, yes, it does. I grew. We had it everywhere. Totally. And so I would freeze the trim even when we weren't supposed to. Only use sugar trim, never use the fans or any of the other stuff. Then I put it in a crock pot. I would do 12 to 16 hours in a crock pot with a couple pounds of butter, a couple cups of water, and then I would keep it at a low rolling boil. And then I would keep refilling it with water, so I keep a certain amount of water in it.
Yeah.
And then like strain it through a cheesecloth into a metal bowl, put it in the refrigerator. Let the water and the butter separate it, and then dump out that dirty water or save it for something else. And then I would take that hockey puck of butter, and then I would melt it down and kind of do a clarified butter thing, where I'd kind of pour off the top where it was just almost clear. It was just perfect. Whereas the lower part was a little bit sludgier. And that kind of had more of I feel like it had more of the indica stuff in it, but that might've been all psychosomatic. And when I would make my cupcakes, I would use an indica for the cake, and I would use a sativa for the icing.
Nice.
And so people would lick the icing, and because you're licking it, it's kind of sublingual. So you get lit quick, especially when you're mega dosing the icing. And so they have a certain kind of a high. Then they eat the cake, and that doesn't kick in for like another 20, 30 minutes, takes them a completely different direction. I used to do damage.
Sounds like fun.
Oh, we had so much fun.
Sounds like fun. Yeah, really exciting. Yeah, so I was told the Native Americans would boil it. This is when I was in high school. So people were like, "Oh yeah, you do the cheesecloth. You wrap it in cheesecloth with a rock. You use a big pot and you boil it. You let it cool. If it's cold outside, you just put it out overnight, and then you cover it, and then you go out the next day and you got a disc on the top. And then the more weed you put in, and I feel like that's the best way to make it super concentrated, because you can put a shit ton of trim in there.
And it's the best, but butter is the best. Fat is the best carrier. Like, I don't care what science is happening. I don't care about nano anything. You give me a butter-based edible, and it's just going to be stronger than the rest of them. And I love, that's why, again, I still mess with Big Pete's. I mean, because it's like those cookies, make some cookies with butter. I love that. You know, just the old tech is always better.
And they got to taste good. Back in the day, we didn't care as much. They tasted like weed.
You wanted it to be green. Like, oh my God, it's strong.
I remember we used to eat brownies where they just put the weed in the brownie.
Literally.
Like, it would burn the back of your throat as you
I don't think I'm supposed to be pulling weed in between my teeth. But
pulling little twigs out.
But it was great figuring it out. It was just that culture. And I just remember like growing up and then people like giving you brownies and the hate. Like, get around to cook it. I mean, there were people selling it. I guess they were selling it to like the tourists and like the older people and like the yuppies or whatever. But just being like a teenager, they just give it to you. So you just get cookies and brownies and you're sharing stuff.
Some brownies.
Oh yeah, and we're gonna get into that. 100% would cut school, go to Telegraph Half in Berkeley, get acid, $2.50 a pop, go to Blondie's, get a slice of pizza and a soda, be in People's Park, and that was the day.
So we grew up in the same era, right? Because that's what we used to do. Totally. The park over there was amazing.
Yeah, before they destroyed it.
Yeah, before they destroyed
Old Cody's, before they moved Cody's down to 4th with the yuppies.
Oh,
it was beautiful. Blondie's, Cody's Books, and Moe's Books. That was like my triangle in Berkeley.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of the Bay. It's the beauty of, I guess, living anywhere. But I do appreciate the Bay. I do love San Francisco. I love Oakland. I love the Bay Area. I love the diversity, the culture we have. Yeah.
Oh yeah, culture. Yeah. It's the best culture in the world, in my opinion. And there's a lot of great culture in other places, but there's so much diversity here on all levels. It doesn't matter what you like or what you're into. There's something for you here in the Bay Area.
Yeah, we're definitely blessed.
Food wise.
Yeah.
You know, you can go to the ocean. It's like right there. You can go up to the mountains during the winter. Yeah. It's like everything is so close. We got the redwoods. We've got great hiking, camping.
We're blessed.
Blessed.
I mean, it's California.
And the weather.
I mean, I still miss going. I used to, my uncle had some weed shops in LA when I was younger, and he wasn't really smoking at this point. So I would go with him up to Humboldt to get packs. Yeah. And just going up on the mountain and just seeing all the different types of flowers coming down and seeing all the variety and stuff that like never left the mountain. Like we took a lot of stuff that back to LA, but the brokers always were like, because I smoked and he didn't, they're like, we're never selling him this, but you want to smoke a little bit? Like this is just doesn't leave the mountain kind of a thing. And just sampling that and then realizing again, like if you're not up there or going up there, you really don't know how good it can get kind of a thing. Like what we get down here is just what we get down here kind of a thing. And I love that about this plant and our culture. And I guess it's the beauty of California because we have that about produce. We have phenomenal produce top to bottom. But
there's some of the best produce in the world. And I think the abundance of produce.
Yeah. I love seeing that we're starting to see cannabis farms grow food again. Like, because the mom and pops kind of went away, but some of the bigger ones are kind of trying to build that back into what they're doing. So they're offering food and cannabis from the same place and kind of pairing it. I know Happy Day Farms does a really good job with that. And there's a bunch of other places that people have popped up recently. They've been doing events. I think it's, I don't want to say the wrong name, but there's other folks out there doing this. And I really like the idea of like people being able to understand that this is an agricultural product and it doesn't have to be separate from this. This can be part of your experience of going to a farmer's market, buying good fruits, buying veggies, buying this kind of produce as well and having it all together. I like that.
Totally. So tell me about Oakland Extracts. I know you touched on it a little bit about edibles, but let's dive into Oakland Extracts, how that came about and where it's going.
Started it in 2013. With my buddy Aaron Tran, and we both worked at Harborside. Like I said, we had been talking about making edibles. We kind of wanted to do that. And we knew part of that process was hash. You have to learn how to make great hash, especially back then. You really need to learn how to make great hash to make great edibles. And I left Harborside to work on a farm, and he started working with some guys at Harborside learning how to make some hash. I started coming back from the farm, and we kind of reconnected, and we were like, okay, let's do this. And I started bringing him like a lot of really, really good product because I was working on a farm, and no one was doing it. They're throwing it away, and piles of trim were sitting on this farm just rotting in the sun kind of a thing. And this is back when everyone was just giving trim away. Yeah. So I'd bring it home and he would make just phenomenal wax and shatter. And we were just kind of giving it away to our friends and all that. And then one of our friends who was a buyer at Harborside, he's like, you need to stop just giving this away. You need to sell this for real. And started selling it in the stores. And this was back when they would not accept branded product, when you're just bringing in slabs of shatter or Tupperware full of wax. And I remember one of the stores is like, we actually need you to name it because it's so much better than the other stuff that we're bringing in. It's confusing the customers. They want to know how to ask for yours. And again, it was because I was just getting really good material. I kind of didn't have the capitalist sense of, if you're selling it as fast as you can make it, you should just get more trim and make more of it. I was just getting what I got from these guys who was giving me phenomenal trim. And so the product was super, super high level at all times. Right. And then we needed to have a name, and we're from Oakland. And then I grew up around Oakland, so I grew up watching the Crane and all that kind of stuff. Right. And then, and also, it was so good and so affordable, and like we could sell it in a really affordable way. This was back when most of the good wax and shatter was $80 to $100 a gram for no reason. Like we didn't. I remember working at Harborside when there was no BHO. There was only water hash because Steve and them weren't messing with butane. They didn't like the idea of that. And I remember when they started selling it, it went from $40 to $60 to $70 a gram, like in a couple of months, because it was selling so fast, and the market forces and the people producing it started wanting to sell it for more. Yeah. So when we started making it, we realized that, because we had access to this phenomenal farm, it was basically giving us whatever we wanted, we could have product out there that was good as a $60 or $70 stuff for only like $30. Yeah. And that was kind of our thing, top shelf quality at an everyday price. We wanted to have this phenomenal product, but it not be super expensive. Right. And that really came from working at Harborside in Oakland, when all of a sudden we went from not really having a lot of hash to all of a sudden there's a bunch of $80 to $100 grams. And people would be like, they didn't know what it was. Like they called it super melt. Yeah. And so I was like, why is this super melt $100 a gram? Who no one's paying $100 a gram? And the customer, fuck that. This is Oakland. Ain't nobody paying $100 a gram. And they would storm out. And us as staff, we laugh because we smoke it. We know how good it is. We also knew how expensive that price was.
Oh, yeah.
And it became like this running joke, like, this is Oakland. Ain't nobody paying for all that. And then so when Tran and I started making it, and it was really good and it was yielding a lot and we had it at a really low price. And so we're like, it's Oakland Extracts. It's affordable and approachable. And that was really kind of like our initial idea, was that we just want to have really good hash. And we're making shatter and some wax. And we kept having people like, none of my friends were dabbing. This is blowtorch era.
Yeah.
So dabbing was like something that like you had to be really comfortable with the torch. So no one in my community, I won't say no one, but I didn't know any brown people that were dabbing. It looked like freebase people weren't going for it.
Yeah.
And I kept telling Tran, like, I'm selling all this shatter, but it's like our folks really aren't buying it. And people keep asking for something they can roll up, and the wax was inconsistent. And sometimes it's gooey, sometimes it's dry, and it's not, for someone who's trying to roll something up, it's not convenient for all of them always to buy it to roll. Yeah. And I kept telling him about that. And he's like, well, I can make the wax in these little 1 gram wafers that are really, really dry. So it'll be like a little vanilla wafer, and they can just crumble it up over a joint blunt or bowl. And that's really kind of what put us on the map. So most of the people that know Oakland Extracts from 10 years ago, they know us from these little 1 gram wafers that look like vanilla wafers. Nice. Actually, like a very small version of this. This is a larger one that he made with rosin.
Oh, nice.
And so we're going to re-release we call them coins for a minute. We're going to re-release them, but we've been really slow about it because we wanted to make it from rosin as opposed to wax, and not every type of rosin can you like kind of get that dry and that stable.
Really cool.
And so we've really been kind of trying to refocus on that.
So you can microplane that right over your joint.
Exactly. Or really my thought was like, I have lots of friends in Oakland who stand around on various street corners, they're kind of rolling blunts. Yeah. And they do it, and everything's in their hand. They take it, they bust up the weed in their hand. There's no grinder. Like everything is just 2 hands going. Right. And this is something that they can just kind of mix right in to go with it and just be really on the go.
Oh, yeah.
And that was kind of.
Well, hash holes are trending really hard right now.
Yeah. That's actually what kind of got us re-inspired about that, because, I mean, wet rosin definitely does have a different taste than dry rosin. It is more succulent, but when it comes to rolling something up, when you're on the go, all that goopy shit, you got to have a tool. It's just a mess. Right. And so we want to have something that's easier for people that are out there mobile, like most people are with their smoking.
Nice.
But anyway, so we started doing that. We did that through the medical era when there's no rules, no taxes, everything was great, backyard blasting, all that kind of stuff. And then with Prop 215. And then when Prop 64 happened, we actually had like serious regulations. Everything had to come out of a licensed facility. We had to kind of change everything we were doing, because previously, like I said, blasting outside, we had ovens in the basement kind of a thing. So we had to actually find a real licensed facility to work out of. Right. And I spent 1.5 years trying to raise the money. This was back when you kind of could raise money without having real receipts. It was that weird transition period where there's a lot of people coming into California trying to invest in companies that were in 215 trying to get to 64, but people were being offered really raw deals. And so there's a bunch of different times where I got offered deals that I thought were okay, and then I had someone read it later and they're like, no, you almost sold your life, you gave your life away.
Happened a lot.
Yeah. And so I'm lucky that I didn't do that, but it kind of created an issue where we didn't really have startup money. So that was a hassle for a long time. And I've known the guys at Jetty since they moved up here from San Diego.
Yeah, and Nate's one of my friends.
Yeah, I love Nate, Ron, the whole crew. And Ron kept saying, because Ron used to go to all these events. I'd see him at any random Oakland event. It wasn't just cannabis events. Like when they first came up here, like he made sure they were in like going to community events too, to kind of really understand the community he was coming into. And I kept running into him, and we kind of developed a cool little friendship. And he's like, you can just make your stuff here. But I didn't like the idea of, I really didn't like the idea of white labeling. I didn't like the idea of just like someone else making your stuff.
Right.
And they knew Tran. They knew Tran was really a good guy. So like, okay, we'll hire Tran, or your partner who makes everything. He can physically work at our facility and make your products, but it can still come through our licensed facility. Yeah. So we kind of found a way to be able to get our stuff through a licensed channel, but actually still have our hands in the mix of it. Because again, I want to because Tran's a former chef. Like he knows the flavors that we want. He knows how we want things to be.
Absolutely.
And so he's able to kind of pick and choose things that are there and kind of make it up to our specifications. And we've been doing that ever since.
Nice. So what were some of the difficulties you went through with starting your own business in Oakland? We have an equity program and all that. And
the equity program is complicated. I was actually on the Oakland Cannabis Regulatory Commission when we created the equity program. Desiree Brooks, Councilwoman Desiree Brooks, was the one who created that. And it was born from a good idea that like there's definitely a bunch of people who have been in the cannabis business for 20, 30, 40 years and have dealt with all the punishments and the repercussions of that. And then when legalization happened, there was an opportunity for them to jump straight in. And so there was definitely a need to create some kind of system to address that. The system we have doesn't work very well for a variety of reasons. And so I stayed out of that program. although I really probably wasn't eligible for the program anyway, because you had to come from a certain zip code, and I've never been to jail and all that kind of stuff. But there was people finding their ways into the program, but I was really uncomfortable about the program because I didn't like the relationship that it created between you and the person incubating you. Right. And and in certain cases it was predatory, but consistently it was condescending. And I kept seeing these people, and it's like, I know this dude doesn't know how to do a business plan or pro forma or doesn't know what ROI, doesn't know all that stuff, but they know miles more than you about how to market a product in this community. So you're just assuming because they don't know how to do these certain things that they don't have all this other value that they can bring in too. And that always made me really uncomfortable. So I never wanted anything to do with that personally in terms of kind of signing up for it. But I do, I have been involved in the program. I've advised a lot of people who've been in the equity program kind of on both sides of it. Right. And, done some consulting with some of the different cities that are have like training programs and all that. And I appreciate the need for that. We came in when it was medical. So we were making money before we knew what we were doing, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. And it quickly turned into like, oh, I have to now buy a safe. There's stacks of cash. I mean, it was just like it just kind of erupted in front of us, old school medical cannabis. When 64 happened, all that went away. Yeah. I've been broker than ever the past couple of years. Definitely the brokest I've been since I've been in cannabis have been the last 3 years, like without question. I feel lucky that we're still here. There's so many brands that were like bigger and better brands that are gone.
So many.
They took money from the wrong person, mm-hmm. or the AR got ahead of them, and they don't exist. Right. And so I feel lucky. Just like when I'll see Dorian from Beazle. Mm-hmm. I'm like, bro, how are you still here? Like, I just want to talk to these guys who've been here longer than me. And then, luckily, like old school cannabis people are really cool about sharing. Yeah. And so I have a lot of great relationships with people who've been in the business longer than me, who've really been open about, hey, maybe you should try this, or this is the pivot. I ran into Dorian in Maryland a month ago when I was visiting my family, and he was out there, and he was trying to put me on game about this is how you can get into this state. This is the opportunities that are here.
Yeah, those guys know their shit. Yeah, Mike and Dorian.
But it's a beautiful thing where someone's like, oh, I have an opportunity. Let me show you. Let me show you how to access this. And as opposed to so many other industries, it's like, oh, I'm not going to tell anyone anything, the trade secrets and all that. I still feel the old school, the legacy people in Canada.
Legacy people will share with other legacy people. That's for sure.
Because we want to see everyone succeed. Like I'll give anyone advice, even if you're some corporate chump. It's like, if you ask me a solid question, I'm going to give you an honest answer. Like, it's just telling the truth, you know?
For sure.
We're all going to make it, I guess.
Well, I think the ones that are persistent are going to make it. Yeah. Like the ones that aren't taking no for an answer. It's like at the end of the day, it's like I don't want to be in any other space. I love this space. I'm on the genetic side, so it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm more picks and shovels in regards to that. Where I work with cultivation partners, I work with nursery partners. We have partners in all these different spaces, but we can have partners in every state working with the genetic side. And it's like, I think there's more longevity for us in this space doing that than cultivation. It's just so difficult. And hats off to my friends that are cultivators, dude. You guys crushing it. It's like the ones that are doing it now, growing super fire. I mean, top shelf flower. The only game there is now to be successful at is growing top shelf flower if you're in cultivation. Yeah. The mids, you're done. You can't grow mids and survive anymore. The price is too low.
Yeah.
But now the price on the
corporate chumps who are just doing it for dirt.
Yeah. Oops. It's wild. We're in wild times.
But it is interesting. I will agree that like when 64 first happened, the cannabis that we had on our shelves was a mess. Yeah. It was like the people that were doing good work were not ready to flip. The people that were ready to flip into the new regulations were just growing scaled up trash. Yeah. And I felt like we didn't have good weed for a couple of years. And
it was so hard though, because the thing is the product would sit on the shelf for so long, or it would sit in some warehouse somewhere.
As everyone tried to figure out metric.
People trying to figure out metric. And some of my favorite brands, like pre-rec, when they went into rec, it's like all of a sudden their product is shit now. And I'm like, how is this possible?
You've always been amazing. What the hell happened? Yeah.
You were so you were the one, and I'm not going to name any names because I feel so bad, because it was like my favorite product in 2017, come 2018, 2019, you go to the shelves and I went to go buy it. And I'm like, I can't believe this is the same company. Yeah. And it's not really their fault, because it was so difficult to navigate, and props to them for trying and doing it. You know what I mean? It's like but there was so many things to navigate with Metric, and it wasn't easy. A lot of the stuff with Metric was these companies with lots of money. They were the first ones to the table because they had so much money.
Yeah.
And so then they have this product out there that's shit, or they acquire brands. So, that happened a lot too.
And then not want to hire the head grower, what they should, lose the head grower and then destroy the brand because you have some amateur in there trying to follow a formula. Yeah.
Oh yeah, some guy from wherever that like had a garage grow that's now in charge of 300 lights or whatever.
I've seen a lot of that.
Lights.
A lot of that, yeah.
Scary.
But it's gotten so much better. Like the past 2 years in particular, the top shelf has just gotten so much better. Like Fig has always been Fig, but they're amazing.
Fig is great, dude. You can't go wrong with
Fig. Up
Fig
north,
Farms, dude.
Sense. I mean, I love that cluster of brands. And there's like Ember Valley. There's just so many good top shelf brands. I remember distinctly, like right in the beginning of COVID, it was just like I was like had to. Who am I going to buy? What am I going to be able to find anything good on the shelves? I mean, I didn't need to be in the store because I have a bunch of friends that grow, but I still like the retail experience. I still want to know what's current, and I like that part of it. And it was like slim pickings for a while. Where now it's like there's a glut of good stuff, and then there's in the mids. There's good mids. I mean, I really love Midzotics. I mean, he's crazy. I love that dude. Matt, I think wild, Matt, And I mean,
Matt's wild. Yeah,
and the product's good for the dollar, you know,
for what it is. And he's trying to be authentic in his own way. And I love that. Yeah,
he's 100%. Like I've told him because we've done events where he's been at the same event. Like I will do any event that you're at because you come with so much energy and you don't care. You're getting your name out there.
Well, he believes in his product, right?
I love
I love that. The car, like the
I love all the little branded
suit,
stuff.
Everything. Like
I love that. He's my favorite. Every time I see him, I give him a big hug and I'm like, okay, this is where I want to be. I love him. Yeah. I love the rise of the lounges. Yeah. I go, like I said, instead of doing demos,
I can't wait for the lounges in the next year. They're going to pop up everywhere too, right? So finally we can have smoking lounges. If you guys don't know, California just recently passed the law that is going to allow smoking lounges. It's about time. We've had some
the cafe part,
the cafe part
where you can actually sell food and make money.
Where we can, I think that's going to be a big game changer for California. You know, we've had like there's a couple in San Francisco smoking lounges. Oakland is yet to get some.
Oakland has Rooted in the 510.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Temescal. They actually have the biggest lounge in California. Period. It's fucking huge. It's still being built out, so it's more big than it is ready to go. Right. And Urbana in Oakland is opening up in a couple of weeks, and that'll have a really nice lounge area. But I go to the city. I go to Mo Green's. I just anywhere there's a lounge. Like I swear I want my product to be because I'd rather do a demo there and actually be able to share things with people.
Enjoy it with people. Yeah, I mean, it's part of the experience.
Or Old School Urban Farm. We had epic demos. Dab bars going on there, and it was just fun.
I miss the deli style with the chopsticks. You know what I mean, the deli style.
Be able to pick your bud.
Where you can actually look at the bud.
What was it? I think it was the Divinity Tree. It was some club that was back in the day in San Francisco. I used to go, and it was and there was like
the whole experience.
All the A's for like 4 grams or whatever. They didn't miss over. It's fine. You can just take it. And just, here, take this gummy to go, or take this. And this is the old stuff, the good stuff. I love that. But I just love the industry in general. Like I don't like. There's bad things about it, but again, I like that there's more access than ever. Yeah. And if we could just stop locking people up and can free the people who are locked up.
That's half the battle, you know, because it's just not right. Yeah. No matter how you look at it, you know, however you feel about legalization, the most important part is that we're not locking people up. We're not locking users up, especially. Yeah. It's like, it's so crazy to think that for the last 40 years, we've been putting people in jail for cannabis. For a plant. Yeah. That only makes the world a better place, in my opinion. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, it's sad, and it's sad that how much of that conversation's gone away. Again, now that we're in Prop 64, we're in the recreational era. It's all about making money, and then a lot of the conversation of us who've been around for a while is just we're going out of business. How do we stay afloat? But how do we deal with the fact that there's still people being locked up? There's still people going to prison over having a couple plants.
Right.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's a strange world we live in. You know, I think a lot of this stuff is backwards. You know, but we're at wild times.
Yeah,
you know,
good times.
Post-COVID, good times. There's good times, and there's good. If you look in every situation, there is some good.
Well, I love the rise of the new cannabis media.
Yeah,
like this podcast, First Smoke of the Day. There's all these other podcasts. There's stuff going on Twitch that I can't keep up with, and I don't know what the hell's going on with TikTok. I'm too old to know. But I just love the idea that people are using media to be able to push different messages and create community in that way. Because I feel like outside of lounges, it's hard to create community, but spaces like this are a place to create community, and that's really awesome.
Well, and we're able to tell a story that's so much bigger than ourselves. It's one thing if I was to write my story, but now we're on episode 80 something, right? And so going in on episode 80 something, we have this story that's told by 80 other people. And if we go to 1,000 someday, which I hope we do,
of course we will. Keep knocking them out.
Imagine 1,000 different stories over time and the impact that potentially has on the future, which I think, to me, that's kind of what it's all about. I enjoy sitting here talking to everybody, but it's like we're telling a bigger story.
Yeah.
And I'm getting your perspective today. And then next we got Maya from home. And then we got this person here who's works in genetics. And so we get these different stories about the industry, and it really paints the true picture of what's going on. Because with the media, as a lot of people know, we're given one story, whether it's agenda based or whatever, but it's the perspective of somebody who has one opinion, right? Whereas you can go and watch podcasts, and then you can align with different people and their stories, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want to hear, but it's all, for the most part, authentic.
Well, I think it's important because it's like there's so many brands out there that are just kind of faceless.
Yeah.
And there's brands out there that, like, I recognize that name, but I really don't know who that person is. I don't know their story. But once I'm able to hear their stories, like, oh, I want to support them. Like, I want to be a part of their movement because I hear where they're coming from. Like, and I love that element of the podcast and just cannabis media, the ability to meet the farmer or meet the people where this is coming from and really kind of have a better appreciation of their story. And again, realize these aren't faceless brands. Most of these, the good brands, they're a couple friends that kind of got together because they like doing one thing and they built this world around them and they're worth supporting.
They're small business owners, in California. And it's not easy to be a small business owner in California. It's very difficult. We're taxed a lot heavier than other places. The tax burden's much higher, but it's difficult to be a small business owner in general.
Yeah, it is. It's tough. You get very used to not paying yourself much. Like I'm good at paying other people, but not so great at paying myself.
But I'll pat myself on the back.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
But then what you need is less. It's like, I just want this. I want my baby to succeed. I want this to get to the next year. And so it's easy.
We got to level up.
Yeah, it's easy not to do things for yourself when you're like, because I want this other thing to be able to happen.
Right.
And so it's exciting.
Yeah, one of the things I'm the most excited about is the farm to table model in the winery model, where you get to go to the grow, whether it's indoor, outdoor, greenhouse, extract company, and you get to talk to the people that work for the company and go on a tour potentially and get to try the product there.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the one big thing that we're missing, and it's slowly starting to happen, and it's just going to eventually snowball, and it's just going to be like the microbrew model or like Lagunitas. You want to get a sense of what the cannabis industry is going to be like in 10 years, go get a tour at Lagunitas because that's the future.
It's really frustrating that we're not there yet. I've had so many friends that had grows on wineries or next to wineries. There's a club in Livermore that opened up recently that there's a winery on the same property. Yeah. And so like you're at the dispensary, then you see this beautiful winery and they hear about all the events they have at the winery. And like, what are your events? Well, you can come hang out, but you can't smoke, you can't consume, but we can go to a winery and do all that. And it's like, as if it's not so much more dangerous to go somewhere, drive somewhere, drink, and then drive away. Yeah. If we can justify that activity and say that we created safety measures around that, we can certainly do that around cannabis. And I think that's a way to save small mom and pop farms. There's a bunch of people who have small pieces of property where they love to be part of a network of small farms where people could come visit them on Sundays and see how they operate and buy it directly from the farm and have that relationship. Because it's so much better when you know the person who's either growing your food or your cannabis, having that direct one-on-one. It's the best.
Totally. Yeah. Are you guys planning on expanding to other states? Or are you guys just really focusing on Oakland?
I'd like to expand to other states. So that's been the conversation. I mean, for those of you who don't know, if you want to succeed in California, you get out of California. Like everyone that I've talked to, the only way to stay solvent is to have a presence in another state. Yeah. California, you can build your name, you can learn, you can be a part of the culture, but if you actually need to make money, you need to go somewhere else. So we've been talking about that. We've been really slow with it just because we're not anywhere near where we want to be in California. This last 2 years have been extremely difficult for us, and I just feel super lucky to still be here. But I have talked to some people back east, talked to some people in Vegas too, actually. Like, I'm not a Vegas person, but even before the Raiders went to Vegas, there was always a huge Oakland contingent in Vegas, and people would always send me pictures of our stickers like around Vegas randomly, and like, oh, that's cute. And then now that the Raiders are there, there's even more serious. And I went out to MJ Biz a couple of years ago, and it was interesting. Like, the dispensary owners who have the option to open lounges were like not sure what to do with it. Yeah. They're like, I talked to this one guy, it's some policy thing. He's like, I don't even know if I want to do it. It's like, are you fucking kidding? Like, you don't want to have a lounge in Vegas? But they kind of didn't see all the what could be done with it. And we have so much experience here in California, it'd be crazy not to try to take out to the rest of the country and do things out the rest of the country. And so I'd love to eventually be able to do that. But I got to shore up our current business. We do have a lot of cartridges. We sell a lot of cartridges. That's probably like 85% of our business currently. Yeah. We've always had live resin in jars. We've gotten into rosin recently, and then we're going to get into edibles. And I really want to launch edibles here and get that going sooner than later. Yeah. And then kind of branch out to other states. I'd love to do a beverage, and I think beverages will work better in other states as well.
I'm excited about beverages. I just love the beverage model too.
Yeah, I'm just excited, but there's so much additional product development that's going to be able to happen, or not happen. We have the product development. As the market expands, there'll be more opportunity to create niche products, and so things that can't necessarily survive in a brutal market like here, but can survive across like state lines. And people are shipping things. I'm talking to brands that are like, with the hemp thing, it's just like, it's crazy to me. I'm like, you're doing what? Like you're making what? Selling it in Tennessee? It's just
Texas, Tennessee, all over. Yeah. I mean, we're talking to a company out of Tennessee, Flow Gardens. He was just on the podcast, getting our product out so that basically he will be our cultivation partner and doing it as hemp. Yeah. And I think it's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing. It's this beautiful loophole, and and it's great because access is important, I think. Yeah.
And honestly, like the reason I like going to MJ Biz or just other events like that is talking to people in other states because they're so excited. Yeah. Like here we're kind of jaded, we're exhausted, we're burnt out. And you talk to people. I talked to these guys from Jersey. They made me want to move to Jersey. They were so excited about opening their club. They had all these plans that may or may not work, but just the excitement that they had. And it was like, I would love to be able to feel that again and be a part of something like that again. So that's part of the drive to go to out of state, is just to be around people who have that level of excitement and energy around it.
I think they only had 6 licenses in Jersey originally. Yeah. So yeah, we might have been talking to the same group. So yeah.
I was talking to some strange characters, but a lot of that really comes from being part of the Equity Trade Network. Yeah. This one of the distros, the distribution center I work with, the Equity Trade Distro, is a distro that's made up of a bunch of small equity businesses and some legacy businesses as well. And they've kind of gone national. So now they kind of have a national trademark. They're kind of collecting equity brands from around the country under this one umbrella. And through them, I've been able to meet all these people in these different states. And it's been really interesting because the cannabis in the Black community, it's accepted and not at the same time. I mean, a lot of folks obviously from my community are involved in the cannabis industry, but there's still a lot of reticence because of the war on drugs. I know that was my parents were against me being in cannabis, and I've met a lot of other folks who their family are having issues around that same thing. So the idea of being able to work with other folks that kind of look like you and kind of work together has been like really advantageous, and it's been a huge opportunity. And so the folks I met in Jersey were folks that had access to equity licenses out there, and they're trying to figure out how to actually get it off the ground. And there's so many of the equity businesses, particularly the ones in LA, they didn't have the best partners. And the partners made bad decisions for them. And so those clubs are really, really struggling. And then seeing like just simple little advice you can give people can go a long way. So I'd love the opportunity through the Equity Trade Network to kind of work with these other brands in other parts of the country and just try to share the knowledge that we do have so we can kind of all work together. Nice. Which is, that's where the podcast came from. The Color in Cannabis Podcast, which I should probably be able to say a little bit easier, I've been working on for the past year. And the idea behind the podcast was just interviewing other just folks from different communities about their experience in cannabis. Nice. I think because so many of my friends, like I have like a bunch of Arab friends, and the pressure they were under from their family looks very different than my Asian friends, or looks very different than some of my white friends. Like each community kind of has their own relationship to cannabis. Right. I have a friend that's her family's from Nicaragua, and they're not tripping about the plant. It's just a plant to them. It's a plant. It's plant medicine. It's recreational, whatever it is. There isn't a judgment attached to it. Whereas my Persian friend, it's haram. I mean, it's all this heavy shit within his family about this being a sin. And so the idea of being able to have all these different people from these different backgrounds kind of tell their stories and talk about how their entrance into cannabis, how their family and their background, their ethnic background has impacted that. That's been kind of really interesting. And then I agree with what you're saying about talking to people, hearing all these different stories, and how it gives you such a fuller view of kind of what you're doing and the connections with other people. And it's completely re-inspired my business this past year working on the podcast. It's again talking to people where they're so excited about their corner of the industry, and you're like, yeah, I do like it over here. I do want to do more of this. And so that's been really a lot of fun.
I get re-inspired weekly. You know, guys like yourself coming on the show. It's always great. And you're on episode number 10.
Yeah. We just launched, or just released episode 10 last week. It's going to be the end of season 1. We have kind of season 2 lined up, have 10 more guests we want to interview. Nice. And I have another podcast that's not just about this as kind of a broader, talking to kind of everyone I know in the industry kind of a thing.
Right.
And I'm more excited kind of about creating content and media around cannabis than maybe just selling a product right now. Selling a product is really tough. And I've talked to so many people in other parts of the country who just have no idea how any of this works. And there's a hunger to know. And again, MJ Biz is one of the things that kind of really highlighted that to me. There's things that we kind of take for granted. We're in California, like everyone knows these things. But when you talk to these people in different states or in different countries, they don't have the experience that we have. They haven't seen 50 other businesses fail going down the same road.
Right.
So that we do have something that's really important to share with all these other people. And then again, there's a hunger to know. And so it's been really exciting being able to offer that or deliver that and just get to know people better. And now I'm talking to people on the other side of the country because they've been watching it. It's just increased the conversations I'm having and the networking I've been having. So it's been amazing.
You got to go to Spanibus. Got to go Mary Jane.
I want to go to Spanibus so bad. Like I've been to Spain separately when I was younger, and I love Spain. I love traveling in general and going to Spain. I went to Barcelona 10 years ago, and it was one of the best experiences of my life.
10 years ago was the best time to go.
Yeah,
too,
but
to be
I
honest.
just want to go to Spanibus. I just want to see. I mean, I want to go to the conference in Germany.
Yeah, that's Mary Jane. So
yeah,
you got to go to.
Yeah, I
got
got friends who go. I see these pictures. I'm like, fuck. I love being in spaces where the English isn't the primary language spoken, and I'd love to be able to do that around cannabis. Like, just be.
It's so wonderful that we can do that, you know. And it's like because it's the one thing that brings us together, and people from all different walks of life getting together around a plant, and having that same conversation because they love the plant.
I have several times. I have some friends in the device space. And I've often been like, maybe I should just get a job with you because you guys get to go everywhere and you guys get to do all the cool stuff. And I'm stuck here in fucking California. I mean, I love California, but like, I want to go to Germany. I want to go to Argentina. There's all these amazing places to go. So
Brazil, you're just in Brazil.
But again, that's actually part of the motivation with that podcast too, is realizing that there's all these amazing stories here, but around the world. I mean, cannabis is a multicultural activity. And I'd love to talk to people in Thailand about what their relationship to cannabis is. And the people who've been farming like multiple generations in other countries and what that looks like.
India.
Gotta go to India.
That's
the home of it, you know? I mean, to be able to see something that far back. I enjoy Indian culture. I appreciate Indian culture. I went to a Buddhist school for a long time. And so like I really resonate with a lot of things that are happening over there. And so I'd love to actually be able to try like the native products. And just be able to try like real hash and like real cannabis and just bong, the drink that they make on it's pronounced
bang?
Bang Bang, BHANG.
Yeah.
I've always wanted to try like the real version of that.
Oh, I've had some, and it's wild.
Yeah, I bet. I can only bet.
Beyond Bomb Extracts. It's so funny how everything comes full circle. But the guy from Beyond Bomb, good friend, he used to make the craziest bang, like it's a milk drink, right? You like fat and
that's how you get it, man. Yeah.
It'll get you good.
Yeah. Speaking of, I miss Tainted. I was just talking to somebody about Mickey Martin the other day and just all the old school products and just him.
Tainted and Beyond Bomb were the two big companies that are off the, I think 2005 they were done.
Mm-hmm. It's sad, but it is, trailblazers often.
Trailblazers pushing the envelope. Yeah. Someone has to do it.
Yeah, they do, and they do good work. And so I'm just excited about where things are going. I'm excited about new products. Just excited to be in the space.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting times, and when it's volatile is when it's exciting.
Yeah.
Once it stabilizes, it's not going to be. It'll be exciting in other ways, but the volatility.
Yeah. Well, and that's where the real money is. I think if you want to make a lot of money, you go into that state that has an emerging market and you just kind of explode in there and be the risk taker. But we both know a lot of people who were that person. They went to jail. Like I know several people, and it's like I like opportunity, but I don't like the sound of federal prison.
No, we've had Luke Scarmazzo and Rich DeLisi on the show, Uncle Rick. And, Uncle Rick did 32 years for a plant.
Yeah, that's insane. That's insane.
Circumstantial evidence.
Yeah. I have one of the guys I talked to, Jason Washington, who owns Plants Over Pills. He was in Montana, had a bunch of dispensaries, was legal, successful, doing really well. The feds didn't like him over in that space doing that. And they tried to give him 20 years, and he fought it. And got out. I think he got off for like 6 months, that doesn't ever happen with the feds.
Right.
But just talking to him and Evelyn, both people I've interviewed, and hearing how they were doing everything right, and then you still wind up in jail. Like I don't think people realize when they hear about like how important decriminalization is, that it's not just like some street dealer that got busted doing something they shouldn't have been doing. People have done everything right, and they still get persecuted by the feds, and they still wind up going to prison, and it's just not right.
Yeah, we live in a backwards world in a lot of ways. Yeah, but there's time for change.
Yeah. And then we're here now. I mean, like
Yeah.
You know,
Seeds.
I remember like hearing about don't drive through Texas because if they catch you with one seed,
you're going to prison.
I'm saying, and this, I would be in jail for the next 1,000 years over here. So I'm just seeing like, and I love seeing all these brands. Like I'm familiar with so many people up here.
Yeah.
I love them to death. I was second graduating class out of Oaksterdam. Prophet Luke's my peeps. I love David Downs with Hash Week. Just the idea that all of these things can be successful and thriving in this, but not all thriving, but that we can be here and be doing this, be working with this plant. It's an amazing treat. I just love it.
So you got some extract here today. I think we got to try some of your extract. You can try some of the stuff I got here. We got all kinds of good stuff.
All right. I brought some of the Zuava, some live rosin that we just did. I wasn't thinking when I left and then so I was like, oh yeah, I should have product with me. So there's not a lot of Zuava in there. And then I had some random stuff around the house, but I have a lot of goodies. I've been working with the folks at Kalia recently, and so I've been getting some goodies from Mark up there. That's actually where we got our rosin from recently, and then we're thinking about opening up manufacturing from different places. I've always wanted Tran to have his hand on it, kind of a thing.
Totally.
But the opportunity to get things from Kalia is like unbelievable, and the fact that Mark and his team have been so generous with just here, this is amazing. You think your people will like it, and giving it to us at a number that we can still deliver it at our normal like super cheap price is fucking awesome.
Right.
And so
I still like good BHO. I'm sorry, but really good live resin.
Yeah, good BHO is phenomenal. Just most people haven't had it.
Yeah, exactly.
At various points, because the market for it's crumbled because there's cured resin, which is cheaper and whatever. And so I keep thinking about like not putting out live resin anymore at all, just because we're competing against people that are selling it for $5 a gram. Like, what are we really doing?
Oh yeah.
But then every once in a while, I'll run into someone and it'll be like, oh my God, that's so good. That's why we got excited about this thing.
Right.
Like I for a while I thought it was the fact that everything was coming through the closed loop systems, and maybe the closed loop systems couldn't replicate open blasting. But recently, from Mark, he gave me some live resin that I would have swore was rosin. Like there's no way that was BHO.
So terpy.
It was so 100% the plant, like 100% the plant.
Wow.
And it was kind of creamy and shit. I'm like, what are you guys doing? But they tweaked the machines and they're doing some other alchemy in the back. And so anytime I think I don't like a class of products, like back up, wait. Because actually I do that it happens with rosin all the time, because I like flower, I like smoking joints. I'm about to smoke a joint. And I have a friend of mine, Jess, she's a buyer at pharmacy. She's like, are you dabbing? Like, I'm like, fuck a dab, I'm smoking my joint. Yeah. She's like, shut up, Terryn. And she'll put something in my little rig and I'll be like, okay, you're right. I forgot how good it can really be.
Oh yeah.
I'm about to be reminded. Yeah.
Candy.
Yeah, Jesus. This is the real thing. Here's some of the Whitethorn Z. I got some of that from Mark the other day, my absolute favorite.
Yeah. So I got an idea with the Whitethorn for cream soda would be amazing.
Yeah, it really would.
I love Whitethorn. Yeah. And then the second I think that something isn't good, they figure out how to make it better. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter whether LED lights.
I can't believe that shit's working. I mean, because I used to grow 10 years ago, and LED lights were a joke, and someone would always come around.
Right? So the blurples sucked.
Yeah.
And we've come a long way since the blurples. Big shout out to all these lighting companies. You know, I think there's 80 big lighting companies, or I wouldn't say big, but there's 80 lighting companies, and there's only 4 factories or something like that. But yeah, LED has come a long way. Spectrum tuning now, you can dial in your own spectrum. You can screw up your plants that way too, which is a great way to screw up your plants.
Having to relearn from scratch.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you're asking me about my temps. So 451 is my low temp that I do for really, really nice rosin.
Yeah.
475 is my general use, and then I do 531 because that's what Roger does. And every once in a while, if I'm doing diamonds, I'll do 550. But again, that's just for this device. On my Focus V at home, I think it's at 375 or 4. It's something really, really low on the one on it at home.
We're gonna have to get Roger on here to explain all this stuff.
Yeah. I wish we could just get all the device guys together in one room and just talk about all these devices at one time, because
there's no egos there.
Yeah, I'm just like, come on, these are such great toys, but like shit, like this works well and this doesn't. Can't we just all? But whatever.
Well, we're getting there, and everybody's got their own version of a saber. You know, Puffco's got their pen. I mean, they've got one for Focus V. Dip Device has their own version. I love these little.
Saber. I love the light on the saber. The hot knife is convenient. You know, honestly, like, because I do dab bars and I have everybody's equipment. Not everybody. I have a lot of equipment at home. I buy a lot of stuff. People will give me stuff. Damn.
Dude, that Whitethorn's good.
Yeah, so is that Skittles.
Yep.
It's funny. Like, there's a reason why the popular things are so popular, right. And it's easy to turn your nose up. Like, for like Blue Dream, it's classic. Fuck Blue Dream. Really good Blue Dream will sit you down and shut you up. Just shut up. I mean, you've had it 10 million times, but
I enjoyed really good Blue Dream.
Yeah.
But I mean, I used to. There was a time where I sold Blue Dream to Harborside.
Yeah.
I sold it. Yeah, Harborside, PCC, Purple Heart.
I love all those places.
Yeah. R.I.P. Purple Heart.
Yeah.
They were a great place. You know, it was like.
I keep thinking he's going to come back. Keith, man, come back. We miss you, Keith.
I'm telling you, they had something special there. And I feel like they were this small little hole in the wall place with tons of passion, like real passion, real good medicine, real good product. They like my product. So it was always, but just really good people. You know, in the Bay Area, we just had some, you know, even the guys over at BPG, you know, I mean, they were really passionate about the plant. It's like,
I miss their old location when they had their lounge. They had the first little lounge I went into. I still go over there a lot to the BPG. They still take good care of me. And then
that was the one with the driveway there.
And then I still go to CBCB. I mean, like, beyond just like as someone selling product.
Yep.
Each club has some great. CBCB has some great prices on the outdoor that they're in their house outdoor. Phenomenal. Yeah. And it's like, it's just pennies, you know?
PCC had top shelf that was unmatched back in the day. Eric and Dave, they're gone. They sold. Yeah. But dude, the product at PCC was phenomenal off Telegraph. Yeah. That was a great Telegraph spot. I had the hat shops right there. So we should get the hat, go get some freaking shelf.
I spent a lot of time in there because I knew those folks. And they, again, it was one of the, when we first started, it was like one of our first 5 or 6 accounts. And then like the Telegraph Health Center, THC, when they were there. I mean, but there's the network of old clubs. People were so dedicated and they spent so much time and energy. And it was a time of such fear. You're worried about the feds coming in, you're getting robbed, like you didn't know what was going on.
Right.
The people were pioneers, and I really appreciate them.
Well, and people think of quality being like it is today, like the quality this, quality that. But back in the day, there was some fire. Yeah. Like some really special stuff too. And stuff where you would only see it one time in your life. Yeah. We had some stuff called the Spaceship that we had for a while that was really, really phenomenal. And the Shaman. Okay. The Shaman. And in fact, the Shaman was one of the things that really got me excited about breeding because my friend bred the Shaman. It was a Shaman. It should have been called the Shamulan because it was a Shaman times the Romulan back to the Shaman. It was a back cross. And it was just so good. And it was purple, and it was strong, and it was heady, and it was terpy.
Here's some Red Congo batter or Red Congo oil at this point. It's been around way too long. But anything Congo, we hold on to it.
So like that's stuff that I would put in my freezer. You know, I have a little freezer stash, and that has, I don't know, a few different kinds. We got jars in there. Yeah. Oh wow.
I love the Congo. Dude, I love the Congo.
This smells like tree sap. It's so good. Yeah. It's got its own unique, and those things have it's not like the terpenoline limonene or terpenoline limonene that most people think of as haze. It's like, it's got its own funk. Like real good Durban. It wasn't super hazy. It was real funky and musky, and you know, it had its own thing with like the anise in it.
The current one is really good. Like I love Durban. It's one of my favorite strains. Yeah. But like I know the Durban I'm smoking now is not the Durban that I smoked like 10 years ago.
No, not
same thing
all.
With lamb's bread. Like I don't see it that often. But lamb's bread
is the most unique thing though. Yeah. That's a musky one, right? I feel like lamb's bread is extremely
musky. It's funky and musky. Almost cheesy, but definitely
it's
musky.
Almost cheesy for sure. And the real one, it's like I've smelled it in other people's crosses where they have that expression in the nose where you're like, oof, lamb's bread. Yeah. Shane Sonny Chiba, my buddy, he was at Harborside, and they were pheno hunting 20,000 plants, and he took me over to the lamb's bread crosses, and they all smelled like lamb's bread. Like they had that distinct musky nose funkiness, like you know, it's like, and it's really hard to describe if you've never smelled it, but it's one of those things. If you smelled it and you smell it again, you'll remember that the rest of your life.
Yeah. I miss that. I mean, I feel like just the way the advent of purples really kind of hurt indicas in general because people started obsessing about color. Yeah. I feel like the same thing has happened with this candy gas obsession. Like it's great, but it's like we're losing so many things because that's the wave. And again, as quickly as I say that, I will admit every single time somebody hands me a lemon cherry gelato, I'm like, damn, that tastes good. So I'm embarrassed. Just like the Whitethorn, I'm embarrassed that I'd like something like that's so common and so pedestrian, but the great flavor profiles are great for a reason.
Well, it's funny because if Whitethorn wasn't popular, you would still like it the same.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't care. Yeah.
Same thing with LCG. If
Yeah.
it was,
I don't care what you call it. I just like it. Yeah.
Sunset Sherbet. Some people were like hating on Sunset Sherbet last week, and I'm like, dude, how can you hate on like real good Sunset Sherbet?
I think
like,
they haven't had it is the issue.
I feel like you don't know what you're talking about. If you hate on Sunset Sherbet, like it never got its day, but it's just as good, if not better. I like it better than the gelatos, but it's its own unique thing, and it's like really good. Fucking Sunset Sherbet is some of the best stuff out there.
Yeah, and it's so like. It's grower by grower, it's batch by batch. I think when I hear people hate on a classic, I just like, you probably haven't had the real version. Like you had some watered down BS where it
Jack. I get hating on Jack because so much bad Jack went around. But if you only think Jack is like something that's very linear, you didn't get really good Jack. Because the Jack back in the day was strong, complex, had amazing flavor. But it's not the Jack that most people think of as Jack today. And I think there's so many things like that. Trainwreck, Trainwreck is phenomenal.
Yeah, that's strong. Real Trainwreck. That's one of the few strains where I've smoked it where it was like too strong. Like I had to put it down and kind of relax a little bit. Like the true version. Like there's a reason why it was called Trainwreck. Like people think these things are games. Like a real AK-47 would do something to you. And people just, again, they got the watered down version of it and they don't know the real expression.
Yeah. I like a lot of the old stuff. You don't see people growing it to the full capability.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like people aren't pushing it as hard as they used to. And there was more of it, but I feel like there was also less growers and there was more passionate people. It was illegal for one thing. You were taking big risks. And so you had to have bigger balls. Yeah. And also there was mids back then.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was absolutely mids. You know, besides the Mexican dirt weed, there was people that grew mids that thought it was amazing. Everyone thought their weed was amazing.
Yeah. I mean, not everything, but so much of what came out of BC for us was mids. Although when I lived in Seattle, I had phenomenal things coming out of Vancouver that would just melt your face.
I love that.
But then by the time it got down to here, it was BC buds, and it was a dirty word.
Yeah, it was a pound that was this big. You could play football with it. You know, it's not. You know, I think. They would smash it and they would use O3 to get rid of the smell. So it all smelled kind of like hay. Yeah. But that wasn't necessarily the good stuff. That was just the stuff that was floating around. Yeah. I would,
when I went to Evergreen State College for my last year of college, last couple of years of college. And we spent a lot of time in Seattle. And I remember getting weed from people like kind of like, I guess like humble. I'd find people, they'd sell you weed out of a duffel bag, but it would be like phenomenal. It would be this phenomenal indoor. I don't know where the hell this shit came from. And they're just like, stick your hand in and take whatever you want. And I'm just like, I'm from Oakland. I'm like, I'm not sticking my hand in shit. Like I can't wrap my brain around this, but we would get such amazing weed. And it was from these little weed nerds. Like I got weed up there. Yeah. This is 97, 98, 99. There's weed that I got randomly from dudes at this one particular coffee shop in Seattle that's probably still not there anymore. Like, and it was better than anything I've had probably since. I mean, it was just phenomenal.
I work in Seattle. I love Seattle.
So there's some nerds. There's real good weed. There's always been weed nerds up there. Those kids are geniuses. There's some shit, supposedly the shit that came from UW or whatever, all those stories about all that nonsense and all that. And all the stuff coming down from Alaska and all the stories about that and all that stuff. It was phenomenal.
Permafrost. I don't know if you remember permafrost from up there. But
ATF. Yeah. And then before it was ATF. I mean, when I first heard of ATF, it was Matanuska Thunderfuck.
There was, they had both. I think I remember Alaskan first, but then I remember both. The Matanuska and the Alaskan Thunderfuck.
I wasn't sure what came. I just remember just like, and then you found it and you're like, okay, this is why this is the thing.
Yeah, Seattle had good flower. It was just really hard. If you lived in Seattle and you were cultivating, it was hard to keep your bud nice because of the humidity. Yeah. And it was always super humid during the winter, especially. Yeah. And I mean, I think their summers are drier now than I think they typically were. But higher humidity environments, it requires indoor trimming, indoor basically storage. And then if you're like dispensing it, you need to have some sort of bag or seal on it. And then every time you open the jar, you got to shut it right away. Otherwise your bud's going to get soggy, right? Because it'll absorb all that moisture. And humidity plays a huge role in the quality of your flower. Terpenes are volatile. They'll go away as soon as it gets humid again, and you dry it out and then get it humid. It's even worse.
Yeah, I had a lot of wet weed up there. Not even just wet, just
spongy too.
Not dry. Exactly. It wasn't dry and crispy. It was just soft.
I think it was it was part of like how it was. It was just most people had spongy flour.
They trying to roll a joint with it off the shitty little papers because there wasn't a good paper selection back in the day either.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so if people are interested in finding out more about you, Where's the best place to go?
Oakland.extracts is our IG. Our Instagram, so that's probably the best place. We also have a website, oaklandextracts.com, that I do not update at all, so that's probably not. But if they go to our IG, it's just me and my buddy, so I answer all the DMs there. So I'm really big on any people who have any questions, comments, thoughts, whatever. I respond to folks on there. And they check out the podcast, the Coloring Cannabis Podcast. Look out for a couple more podcasts coming, and if they're interested in Oakland Extracts and they're in California, we're on Nabis, I guess, It's
awesome.
But really just, the Instagram.
Gotta love Instagram.
Smoke more hash.
Yeah. Well, cheers. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Look forward to having you again one of these days.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you. Appreciate you, brother.
Cheers. Thank you guys for watching. Please like and subscribe down below.